I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life that it was just taking over. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that. They were saying, oh look, he's not the perfect happy-go-lucky kid you think he is. He's having a nervous breakdown in New York. If I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. They took the story in the wrong direction and they kind of painted people looking for help in the wrong light. Sort of more than a memory is just a feeling that I can say all of my brothers and I had, was that because our dad's a comedian, his job only ever existed once we had gone to bed, and our mum worked from home, she was a photographer. So to us as kids, our parents didn't really work, they just were always home. So we had this amazing foundation where no matter any time of the day, either mum or dad would be at the house. And we felt so kind of solid as a family, which is why I kind of have this dream of one day having kids and putting my work to bed and just kind of being there as a dad. Because I really admire how my dad was around. You know, being a comedian is a very, very volatile job. The highs and lows are so extreme. And as kids, we never saw that. The only version of my dad I ever saw was the happy dad, let's go to the park. We used to play this game called Golf Goals where we would go down to the park, there's like this big blue metal goal, and we would just fire golf balls into that goal every day, and he would give us 10p every time a ball went in the goal, and that was kind of the foundation of our golf and all that sort of stuff. So for me, broader than a core memory was the idea of always feeling connected and safe within my family unit. And I think a large portion of that is that my mum and dad have always been such a solid team and they've always been there for us. I think the quote is, if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
That is so good.
And I think that is such a great piece of advice, because as a celebrity, you live on this stage, you live out there, you kind of give out a version of yourself that you want people to see. Mm-hmm. And that can be the version of yourself that they can have a problem with or they can love. And there is I feel like I'm quite authentic in my public persona, but I just try to really care about what my family thinks, what my friends think, what the people in my local community think. I live in Kingston. I know everyone that lives there. I can't walk 5 feet without bumping into one of my mum's friends. So yeah, so it's something I've been working on. I try my best to not let that stuff affect me. It does. I think the thing I admire most about my dad is his resilience. You know, he's someone who has had an incredibly successful career in his earlier life, and then later in life his career sort of plateaued and he struggled, and he's never stopped. He's never given up. He's still gigging to this day. He's still writing books. He has a Patreon. He has a podcast. He's constantly grafting to get to where he wants to be. And I think being a young kid and seeing your dad continually working as hard as he can to kind of put his best foot forward, for me has been a huge drive for my work ethic. I'll give it 100% or I'll give it nothing. And I think a lot of that has come from my dad and seeing him deal with that. Something that did really upset me, I was in New York, I was shooting The Crowded Room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was, the emotional capacity that I was having to get to every day. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life that it was just taking over. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it, and I was obsessed to find out what people were saying and what they thought about me. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. And I tried to position myself and say, like, I'm taking a break from social media because I feel like my mental health will benefit from it. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown. And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. They took the story in the wrong direction, and they painted again this negative light on mental health, rather than saying, oh, he's doing it, it's okay that he's doing it, so we should all feel okay to do it too. They were saying, oh look, he's not the perfect happy-go-lucky kid you think he is. He's having a nervous breakdown in New York. And I think that was a really unfair line of journalism, let's say, because I just think it, again, kind of painted people looking for help in the wrong light, if you know what I mean. What's interesting about my career is this was never something I wanted. I just was a young kid. I loved dancing. My mum would take me to a dance class every Saturday, and I got spotted through that dance class to audition for a show on the West End. I ended up doing the show. I loved it. Billy Elliot. It was a time of my life. It was such a cool experience. Just by complete fluke, an agent came to see the show the night that I was on. She signed me. She sent me to an audition for a film. I was lucky enough to get the part. All of a sudden, I was on set with Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts, and we made The Impossible. And to be perfectly honest with you, it was just a hobby. It was something that my mum would let me do on the summer holidays. She was very keen that I kept my schooling. It's interesting. I didn't one day wake up and say, I'm giving up drinking. I just, like many Brits, had a very, very boozy December. Christmas time, I was on vacation, I was drinking a lot. And I've always been able to drink a lot. I think I get my genes from my mum's side in that thing that I can drink. And I decided to just give up for January. I just wanted to do dry January. And all I could think about was having a drink. It's all I could think about. I was waking up thinking about it. I was checking the clock, when's it 12? And it just really scared me. I just was like, wow, maybe I have a little bit of an alcohol thing. So I sort of decided to punish myself and say, I'll do February as well. I'll do 2 months off. If I can do 2 months off, then I can prove to myself I don't have a problem. 2 months go by, and I was still really struggling. I felt like I couldn't be social. I felt like I couldn't go to the pub and have a lime soda. I couldn't go out for dinner. I was really, really struggling. And I started to really worry that maybe I had an alcohol problem. So I decided that I would wait until my birthday, which is June 1st. I said to myself, if I can do 6 months without alcohol, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. And by the time I had got to June 1st, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I could sleep better. I could handle problems better. Things that would go wrong on set that would normally set me off, I could take in my stride. I had such better mental clarity. I felt healthier, I felt fitter. I didn't fall back on it. I have done in the past. Like, I've had periods of my life where I'd given up drinking and then gone back to drinking. But this time, I don't know, it was just different. I really worked to sort of change my mindset. I really asked myself, like, why do you drink? Why are you drinking? And a lot of the time my answer would be to feel more comfortable in the social environment. Yeah. And I just put myself in those environments and just would force myself to be there. I'd force myself to hang out and go to a club or go to a bar, go to a dinner.
Yeah, so you weren't avoiding those places.
I was at the beginning because I didn't feel like I could go and not have a drink because of the stress of it. But then after a while, I sort of was like, mate, you've got to pull your socks up here and you can't just live in your house all the time. You've got to go out and enjoy yourself. And if you're only enjoying yourself because you're drinking, then you really do have a problem. But I just changed my mindset. I found really good replacements, things that I could sort of attribute to having a beer. I often found with me, most of it is just the ritual of cracking something open and sharing it with friends and drinking it. Whether it's sparkling water or a beer, I don't associate, I don't see a difference.
Yeah.
But I think it's different for everyone. Yeah. I had a great support system. Jack is one of my best mates and we travel all over the world. He doesn't drink, and doing it with him was a really helpful experience for me. My brother is always on the road with me. He was very supportive. And yeah, I just really set my mind to it. I was like, I really want to do this. I want to prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah.
And then once I'd felt the health benefits and started really feeling like my full self, I was like, oh my God, this is the best. Interesting. I'll tell you something I do love about being a non-drinker. I love being the designated driver.
Yeah.
I love being that person that makes sure that everyone gets home. I don't know, I like being a dependable person. I think I'm quite dependable.
Yeah,
and I really like that thing. And I saw this crazy YouTube video once, this was years ago, of a guy that went to a bar, he got drunk, and he drove home, and he crashed his car. And I don't know if this is real, it could have been fake, but it's really impactful. Basically, what his friend had done was set up the room as if he had been in a coma for like 10 years. And his friend wakes up hours after the crash, and his friend is there, and he had all like old makeup on to make him look older. And now I'm thinking about it, there's no way this could have been real, because how would they have been able to pull that off? But he basically is saying to him, like, you've been asleep for 10 years, everyone's missed you, like, we can't believe you're awake, this is amazing. And it shows like how a stupid decision like driving drunk can affect the future of your life. So I do love being the designated driver. That is something I enjoy. Seeing my friends have a good time and being like, don't worry, Tom will take you home.
Yeah.
You're definitely not getting it wrong. I think it's just different. It's case by case, you know. There are people like Jared who dive into their roles and they do things like sending people dead rats and stuff like that, and they think that that's what they need to do. I've always been really good at separating my on-set emotions from my personal life emotions. As a young kid, I used to really heavily rely on my personal emotions to get them to come across on screen. And I just found it really unhealthy. I just found that like the line between my life and my character's life would be blurred. And ultimately, at the end of the experience of making the film, I would be a very different person, but not because of my experiences as Tom, it would be because of my experiences as my character. So I decided very early on to find certain techniques and certain ways to get into those emotions from a sort of technical point of view. I never sit on set and think about my mum getting sick or never speaking to my brothers again or something like that. I never blur the lines with my personal life and my work life. I always leave work at work. There are jobs like The Crowded Room that are particularly taxing. Getting to those emotions on a daily basis is really difficult and really tiring. But, you know, it's probably somewhat like Coldplay on their 89th show. You just dig your heels in, you realise you've got a job to do, we're all wonderfully well paid. There are people that work far harder for far less. I recognise how lucky I am, so I'm like, if I need to cry today and tomorrow and the next 50 days in a row, I'll do so. Yes, it's difficult, but I think your question, I'm probably the worst person to ask that, because I think I have like a really healthy outlook on how I achieve my emotions on set. But I have worked with people that shut their bedroom door and just dive into the character and are pouring through the script every night and are in character all the time. And I admire them. I don't necessarily think it's the healthiest way to go about it. I really don't know the answer to that question. I've definitely walked away from a lot. And I think had I not walked away from certain situations, let's just put it at that, I would be a very different person today. I've been really good at keeping in touch with my friends, keeping my family close, listening to the lessons, not getting caught up in the Hollywood hype. Like, I really am a massive fan of making movies, but I really do not like Hollywood. It is not for me. The business really scares me. I understand that I'm a part of that business and I enjoy my kind of interactions with it. But that said, I am always looking for ways to kind of remove myself from it, to kind of just live as normal a life as possible. Today, doing this is a very rare thing for me to do. Like, in London, to come in and speak to someone about my life is something I would not typically do, but because I'm a fan of yours and I was keen to kind of hear what you had to say and chat to you today, I felt like this would be a safe space for me to do that. But yeah, I definitely think it has been an ongoing thought, which is don't lose yourself. I've seen so many people come before me and lose themselves, and I've had friends that I've grown up with that aren't friends of mine anymore because they've lost themselves to this business. And I just am really, really keen to focus on what makes me happy, which is my family, it's my friends, it's my carpentry, my golf, the charity that my mum runs. Like, that is the stuff that makes me really happy, and that's the stuff that I should protect. My relationship is the thing that I keep most sacred. I don't talk about it. I try my best to keep it as private as possible. We both feel very strongly that that is the healthiest way for us to move on as a couple. So I do try to keep as removed from it as possible. Like, you'll never see me at an award show that I don't have to be at. I'm never going to a red carpet event that I'm not in the film of, you know. I don't want the attention when I don't need it. I love the spotlight. I love the pressure that comes with it. Just watched that tennis documentary, Breaking Point.
I haven't seen it yet.
You got to see it. It's amazing. I never realised how brutal tennis was. I've always been a huge tennis lover. I am now absolutely in awe of what those athletes go through. But there's a quote from Billie Jean King that's on the stand at her stadium in New York that says, "Pressure is a privilege." And that is so true. Like, oh my God, feeling pressure on a daily basis in the capacity that we feel is such a privilege. I love feeling pressure. I feel like I thrive under pressure. The best golf I've ever played in my life is when there are cameras around and people are watching. I just think that that is a real amazing thing to be able to experience. So I enjoy it while I can, and then when it becomes a bit much, I kind of become a bit of a recluse and I disappear. I come back to Kingston, I play golf, I play tennis, I hang out with my friends and my family, do the pub quiz and and all that sort of stuff. So it is something I actively try to do. As I get older, it only gets easier.
Yeah.